The prodigal son returns, the empire strikes back. Welcome back, everyone, to yet another ThyGap podcast episode. My name is Bogus Noog, and guess who's with us? My co host,
Being Brut is back.
who is finally out of the Kukatpally jail. I actually
Yes.
spoke to the sub inspector, and he was telling me that they were only letting Brute out for COVID related reasons. I would have believed him,
Lies.
but he was winking at me at the same time.
Lies.
I really wonder what Brute has done to. I mean, even the cops could not keep you in, Brute.
Bogus, first of all, the party's over for you.
It's
Okay. All that awesomeness that you thought you had while recording the podcast all alone, right? The party's over. The reality check is here. I am back.
The reality check is
The
that
reality check named Being Brute is back.
you're such a high bar for tolerance. Not even the law enforcement can actually tolerate you. It's only me. I'm the only guy who can actually tolerate you for extended periods of time. And for all those people who I put to sleep with my solo episodes, it's time to wake up now because Brute is
Yeah.
back. And in your excited awakened state, it's probably the right time to remind you that you can follow us on our socials, on Twitter at
Yes.
ThyGap, on Instagram at _ThyGap, and our email is
mindthygap@gmail.com. You can write up to us with whatever you have in your mind, and we won't mind.
so Brute. Very good to have you back. I'm of
Yes,
course saying
Bogus,
that for
I am
politically correct reasons.
Yes, and I don't care about your political correctness because you're politically incorrect most of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm rejuvenated, super happy to be back to the ThyGap podcast. It's like being back home,
Fresh
after
air.
fresh air. The body is having a lot of energy.
You dug through the tunnels of shit through rain and
It
thunder.
was
like a
Shawshank
Shawshank,
Redemption-esque kind
Except
of
this was
escape.
JNTU Phase 4 redemption.
Yeah, it's like phase 9, just walking out, just the things playing in my mind,
Right.
the scenarios.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing.
How long
to
was the
see
GHMC
your
Nala that
nonsense
you
face.
crawled out of?
There is no Nala in GHMC as in Kukatpally, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
There are Nalas which come under GHMC.
Right.
I don't want you to picture me in a Nala, guys. Okay. Bogus is kind of trying to force you to have that picture in your mind where Being Brute is kind of crawling in like Nalas with shit around and all that. That's a personal hobby of Bogus, which is an unfulfilled wish. That's on his bucket list to
No,
do
guys.
that.
Let me paint the picture for
Considering
you.
that he lives much closer to the Musi, he always stares at it whenever I go to his place. He's
Smells
staring at
of
the
view.
Musi and he's like, one day, Brute, one day you'll see me there crawling out of the Musi and kind of ripping off my shirt, showing off my belly and laughing with joy.
Yeah, the fragrance of the Musi River just reminds me of Brute every time. But
Yeah.
guys, let me paint the picture. Basically, the sub-inspector went to the jail, found a poster of Disco Shanti on the wall. And he threw a stone through it and it made a hollow sound. And he ripped it off and he saw a hole in the wall.
Yeah, hole in the wall.
Oh no, Brute has gone.
The writing was on the wall, and finally the trip that Bogus was in, it kind of subsided and he came back to his senses. So that's about the history, what happened when I was not there and what was happening in my personal life. Bogus was elated that he had both the mics all for himself.
Yeah.
So that was a bad picture, by the way. Again, I can smell his stench that comes from his mouth.
But Brute, you seemed a returned man, a man with a sense of purpose.
Yes,
I can see it in your eyes, Brute.
I have been recently extremely frustrated, shaken to my bones.
I mean, you've had a lot of time to think about things.
Yes.
So I want you to tell us what's on your mind.
So, Bogus, I want to start off with telling a small anecdote.
Okay.
Anecdote. How is it pronounced?
And we get your essence. We understand your meaning.
anecdote. Dot a. Anecdote. So this is a funny story, right? Which really kind of tipped me off. One of my friend who has a 4-year-old kid, right? So they were planning to like join his child into a school.
Okay.
So obviously, like any other parent, they wanted the best of the best for their child.
I mean, yeah.
So they went for the top-notch schools.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of shared his experience with me, and it really kind of bugged me off, right? As if I was not already bugged off,
Mm-hmm.
because it was related to the whole education system, right? And we share probably one of the few topics where we are mutually kind of share the same frustration towards it.
But I thought
So-
you said this was a funny story.
No. The funny thing, I said it's a funny
okay.
thing.
Okay.
That I got pissed off because I
Because this is
generally
the
don't get
dark
pissed off.
area for both of us.
The only time I get pissed off is when I see your face,
Uh-huh.
right? And when I see your diaper hanging out of your jeans.
Mm.
But so this is what is it. Let me jump. Okay. I'll jump into the story. No more wasting time. See how excited I am, Bogus?
Yeah.
Can you feel that energy in the room?
Just back to civilization.
Yeah. So basically, this guy calls me up and like, dude, I'm shaken today. And I was like, what happened? So they went to this school, he and his wife, along with his kid. And the events that followed kind of gave him like a nervous breakdown. Yeah. So I'm just going to run you through the events quickly.
Okay.
So the first thing that happened is they went into the school and they're like, hey, we want to join our child to, enroll her into your school. So what is the process? So it's like, great. So we're really happy to have you here, blah, 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 all that salesy things.
Right.
And then they kind of put his wife in another room and then him in another room. And they kind of got interviewed, right? They didn't kind of. They kind of got interrogated. They got interviewed, basically.
Right.
And the questions were kind of, he felt they were a little, off the curve, I'll kind of give you a sense of what kind of questions were asked. I'm using a lot of kind of, but you get it. It's literal, right?
We're talking about education, and
so
your
it's
education
kind
is
of,
poor.
yeah,
So,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
Is the word.
That's
It's
where
horrendous.
That's where all your frustration comes
Absolutely,
from.
because I cannot be a part of any group,
Yeah.
considering my illiteracy.
Mm.
But I'm doing this podcast. Anyway, so they ask questions like, how much of time do you spend with your child? Like, what are the kind of things that she do, at home? Like, what do you do? What did you teach her? Blah, blah, blah. And all these were fine for him to an extent, though they were a little irky. Like, what do you mean by this?
Yeah.
But the killer question was, okay, so what do you want your child to become, an engineer or a doctor? And my friend, very
4 years old.
4-year-old kid, right? And it's first grade.
Mm.
So he very politely, like, you know what, we didn't think that far. We just want her to have like a decent education, just, where she can, be a person of her own, be in a position to kind of make her own decisions or get an understanding of who she is, kind of a thing. Kind of philosophical. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and the person on the other side of the table apparently like shook her head and you're like, okay, see, this is the deal, bro. The 3 or 4 people who came before you were very clear of what they wanted from their child.
And what was the clarity?
Is we want our kid to be in XYZ, Ivy League or,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
irrespective of the domain.
Mm.
And that helps us to see how we should deal with your kid,
I see.
right? How do we go about with your kid? And he was like, I seriously don't have an idea. I don't know what we didn't think that far. That's all I can say. And then she kind of made a note like, kind of a thing. And then they took the child into a room where there were toys and then there was a desk on which another teacher was sitting.
Mm.
And she's a 4-year-old kid.
Right.
You can imagine the moment she saw the toys, she kind of ran towards the toys and started playing with them.
Yeah.
So the teacher was like, hey, sweetheart, come here.
Mm.
And she very, like any other kid, said like, no, I want to play with the toys.
Mm.
Then again, the teacher, and made a note.
Remark.
Right.
Mm.
And then they kind of somehow like got her to the desk. And there was this black and white printout of a refrigerator with stuff in it.
Mm.
And they were like, she has to now circle fruits out of this picture.
Okay.
It's a black and white printout.
Oh,
right?
okay.
She's a 4-year-old kid.
Mm.
And I don't know how does that make sense, but I felt it was too much for a 4-year-old child who's just about talking and who just came out from home for the first time, whatever, right? And obviously she didn't do that well, or I don't know how that went about. But they were like, okay, so we see that you probably might not have invested enough with her. So what are the kind of things that you taught her? Blah, blah, blah. And my friend is like, we taught basic stuff like, eating etiquettes. How do you treat people? Like you treat elders with respect, the values, basic values and etiquettes predominantly. We didn't go deep into, sweetheart, this is the capital of our country. This is that, this is this. So they were like, yeah, okay, things are way, 4-year kids are way more capable, blah, blah, blah. And however, the conversation ended there, and it basically ended by the faculty telling my friend, saying that we'll get back to you. Like a typical corporate interview where, if you and me go to an interview today and we finish the process, they will be like, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And he came back, almost felt like he's a bad father. Right? I mean, he came back with that feeling. And when he was sharing this, I was getting so frustrated. I was getting so pissed off. It's so unfair. I just felt, I don't know, it just shook me to the bones, dude. Like it was so uncalled for, right? And I'll tell you, I met this kid, yeah? She can solve like a 25-piece jigsaw puzzle by herself. Like you just dump the pieces and she can do that.
Right.
And that shows a certain amount of caliber, right? It's not easy, even for a 3-4-year-old kid, to figure out a jigsaw puzzle and put things together. Take some analytical thinking or whatever you call it, like cognitive ability.
It shows that she's not fit to be an engineer.
Yeah, well, sure.
I mean, it kind of makes sense from the school's perspective, I guess, because for a 4-year-old kid who wants to be an engineer, you would teach ABCs differently compared to a kid who wants to be a doctor.
You need to teach ABCDs in a way where that A is an isosceles triangle without a base.
Right.
Where the base is at the equilibrium if it is a capital.
Right.
But if it is a small a, then it's essentially an inclined oval with kind of a tilted line, a curve coming with about 40-degree phi angle, whatever.
Yeah, and
at the right quarter.
How can
bottom quarter.
How can you expect this kid to crack MSET if she's not taught the alphabet this way?
She stands no chance.
No chance.
No chance at all.
And this bullshit about interrogating parents separately, it reminds me of something cops do. Like when they catch 2 criminals, and they want one guy
tally
to give
the
up.
story.
Yeah.
It's a good cop, bad cop.
Good cop,
Let's see
bad
who's
cop.
the weak link.
Get the
Who
story
do we put
right.
pressure on?
Like, what the fuck are these guys trying to pull? I can't understand.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about showing the kid toys versus some other stuff and seeing what they pick is like some sociology experiments they do with monkeys.
Yeah.
Like put shapes in front of them and let's see which shape the monkey picks. Yeah. What is this nonsense?
Yeah. It's absolutely horrible. And also immature from my friend's side to actually expect, I felt, that things will be in his favor.
That's true. He should have done some research because this whole thing has been butt fucked for a while now.
Yeah. So that's the story that I wanted to tell, which kind of pissed me off. That kind of takes me to another story, which I'll reveal later in the episode. But this is the time we reveal the topic of the episode, Bogus.
Well, I think it's obvious.
What is it? How does peanut butter make a good snack? That's the topic of the episode, guys.
I think our listeners could tell that that's the direction we were getting into.
# peanut butter, # marshmallow experiment.
And if they were not able to tell this, then it means they had a bad education.
Bad education. You had horrible education if you couldn't decode where we were going with this.
Nah. Hopeless.
So, Bogus, that's... I want to take a little more deeper.
Yeah.
I want to take this conversation a lot more deeper because you see, I've become a very philosophical guy.
Yeah.
Right? After my enlightening experiences recently and rejuvenated value for life. I want to ask you about what is your take on sociology?
Well, this topic is, philosophical things for me. It makes me think, like sit in a corner and ponder.
Yeah.
This topic makes me break stuff.
Yeah.
It makes me want to break things and light, certain buildings on fire.
Yeah.
All kinds of things that we can't legally disclose in a podcast.
My secret passion for shot putting came after I threw a lot of stones towards a certain amount of window panels.
Right.
It kind of made me realize my ability of shot putting.
Yeah.
And multiple scratches on the walls. A lot of things. I mean, I kind of empathize with you.
Yeah.
I think I get there. I get what you're saying, man.
Yeah.
I really get it.
Yeah. And Um, I'm not even a parent, but even when I was in, when I didn't complete my education, I was still in my engineering. This nonsense started off,
Yeah.
where parents were being interviewed first.
Yeah.
Kid was interviewed separately without the parents' presence, which is already for me. I look at that as an intrusion, which is why do I want to leave my child in the presence of some strangers
Mhm.
when it is not, we have not signed the contract yet that they're going to be her or his educators,
Yeah.
right? We're still just meeting for the first time.
Mhm.
How do they think that I'm just going to feel comfortable leaving my kid in their presence for some time
Yeah.
and just walk away?
Yeah.
What is this nonsense? None of this existed when we were kids.
Yeah. Things have been changing and not for the good, I feel. Uh, I think back in the day, it was a very simple conversation.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Back in the day, even then, the quality of education was nothing great.
If you're talking about the quality of education, we have to go way back in the day.
Yeah, way back.
Way back,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it was mythology almost.
Yeah.
To us, for us to be like, yeah, that was a good time. But I think we lost the plot a long way back.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think. Okay, so I'll just ask you, what do you think is education? Now that we are the victims, who are sitting on the other side of the Musi River,
Right.
the other side of the banks.
Right.
What for you is education? What is your expectation of education?
My expectation of education is basically everything outside of a curriculum. Because in my personal experience, my real education was everything outside of the curriculum. There was nothing in the curriculum.
You mean to say syllabus or curriculum? Curriculum is basically,
I mean, yeah,
the overall
one and the same.
activities that are involved in the
With the
Yeah,
syllabus,
yeah.
the academic,
the academic
syllabus.
syllabus. So subjects essentially.
Yeah.
The textbooks.
Yeah. All of my personal, in my own subjective experience, all
Yeah.
of my education
Yeah.
was outside of the syllabus. So what the syllabus was for, it just seemed like it's just to make you obedient. That's
Yeah,
it.
all those jokes of where did you finally use x plus y whole square? You know, kind of makes sense in a very wrong way.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, where did I use it?
Yeah.
And I don't even know how that is tickling any amount of ability by solving x plus y whole square. You know what I mean?
I think it does for a kid who is passionate about algebra, and
Yeah.
allow him to go dig into where x plus y whole square goes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm passionate about something else.
Yeah,
Like I
but-
want to do something else.
The passion was also killed for me. I'll tell you the story again. Very short story.
Okay.
I think I told this to you before, but for the greater good, let me reiterate the whole story.
Right.
I think it was in my 8th grade, and we were having this 7th or 8th grade or somewhere around, whatever, high school. Okay, let's be Western here. It was during my high school, and it was a social class, and there was this whole chapter about how Mughals kind of had their reign grow in India,
Yeah.
and every king, the list of kings were there, blah blah blah.
Right.
And midway through, I was kind of like curious, like, okay, Mughals seem to be like a really, happy-go-lucky kind of a kingdom in Middle East. Why the fuck did they even come to India?
Right.
Right? So I kind of got up, I like, ma'am, like, I have a question. Like, yeah. So I was like, okay, why did Babur come to India? Like, why did even Mughals bother about coming to India? Because they seem to be a very successful, kingdom
It's a
in their own
pretty
sense.
straightforward question from an eighth grader.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a curious. I
Yeah.
was a curious boy, Bogus. Couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
And then this is the best answer I got in my whole life, where she was like, "So, Brut, here is the thing. In history, you don't ask why, you ask when."
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of stared at me. And then about
She
like 50
paused
other
for
students.
effect.
Yeah, they paused for effect. She had a
Right.
dramatic kind of nature.
Right.
And I could feel the building falling on me as if I've done a great mistake. And I was like, how does that even make sense? Like, so answering your question in my way, Babur came in 1600s, whatever, 1400s, 1500s, whatever time he came. And I was like, no. I get when he came. I'm like, why did he come? That's
Right.
my question.
Yeah.
Like, no. When is what we have to know. So that's it. That's my answer. Either you sit down or get out of the class. So I chose the latter. I got out of the class. Finished everybody's lunchbox. That's the only bright side of that incident. But on the hindsight, that kind of ruined my respect for what followed. I lost absolute interest in knowing any of these things.
I mean, it is such a basic thing. It was a question of motivation. And it is a more important question than which calendar year this guy chose to walk through our borders.
Yeah.
So, why the fuck is he even coming here?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an important question to ask. And it is so. I mean, it says something when a professional teacher is not able to answer such a basic question. But if you come out of the school and you ask anyone on the street,
Yeah.
they probably couldn't tell you which year Babar came in,
Yeah.
but they could tell you why they came in the first place.
Exactly. And you won't believe, it's after about 15 years of me finishing school, I was reading this book, and which is where I actually got to know why Babar had to come towards the Silk Route, essentially. So, I mean, I got the answer ultimately, but that's because of my own effort, in a way, right?
If you take your example where you asked a very basic, curious question to your teacher, and it's one of the most reasonable questions you could ask. And if I think of myself, my relation to history was I only started getting interested in history once I was done with my education, or once I stopped having to study history for an exam.
Yeah.
That is when I actually got interested and I started going into history.
Basically, when there was no need of competition, you're not competing, you're not a part of a race to finish a lesson within a certain time or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And in my own childhood, because of my father's occupation, we had to get transferred a lot around the country. So I've had education in Haryana, I've had education in Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah.
I've had education in Hyderabad and also other places. But the most significant difference I saw is my schooling, which is from 8th standard to 10th standard, was in a prestigious kind of institution, which was a hostel away from the city.
Yeah.
And because of the prestige and the reputation, it tended to attract faculties from ex-army, ex-air force, and
the cream crop, basically.
the
You were studying in the IITs, the school of, in an IIT kind of a school.
kind of a school. It's not really an IIT or a BITS or anything, but also a school which has that kind of reputation,
Yeah.
which would attract good faculty and who pretty much were coming there as a service. They were not coming there to earn money.
Yeah.
They were coming there because they believed in their ability to teach.
So essentially, you're talking about a bunch of passionate people who want to distribute the knowledge they have.
And not just passionate, but also very capable, very experienced, and how do you call them? Accomplished people in their field.
Indigenous
And
faculty.
And so for school level lessons, we got in institute level professors who were coming and teaching it to us. And as long as they stuck to their, and the difference between you and me that I can see is I never, not even once, raised my hand and asked a question out of curiosity.
Yeah, because you're a very dumb student.
Because I always had a problem with authority all my life, and I never trusted authority. So automatically for me, they were enemy. Okay. And as long as they stuck to the syllabus, I had no interest. I was always zoned out. I was always looking at the clock. And I was trying to will the clock to move faster. Yeah. I was counting.
You were training yourself to be like, who's a Patrick Jane.
Yeah. I was tracking the passage of time through 5-minute segments, basically.
Fuck.
It was a painful existence.
You had a clock in the class?
Yeah.
We didn't have a clock in the class. It was like a casino, where there are no watches, so you don't know how much time you're spending types, but you're like cringing to death like every second.
Yeah.
You sleep, you play, you eat, you do everything, but the time just doesn't pass.
Yeah.
So it was like in a vacuum of time.
Yeah.
Every class is like a vacuum of time.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
You experience the theory of relativity.
And that's exactly how it should not be.
Yeah.
Like learning, I mean, all this talk about, I'm sorry I'm cutting you off because you're kind of going into a boring story.
No, it's not a boring story because let me give you, because your example illustrated how it is when teachers fail you as a student.
Yeah.
And my example illustrates the opposite. And for anyone who missed out on the opportunity of even experiencing what a good teacher is like, I want to kind of share this because it was a revelation for me also.
Yeah.
And remember, for me, these guys were the enemy.
Yeah.
And so as long as they stuck to their subject matter, physics,
They were your
civics,
enemies.
Geometry, Sanskrit,
Trigonometry. Come on.
they
Chemical
were
bonding.
just enemy material.
Yeah.
But these guys were so accomplished
Yeah.
that I think they could not help themselves. Every now and then they used to go off topic.
Yeah.
And when they went off topic, they used to share incidents from their life, which were also related to the subject that we were studying.
Yeah.
But it's not from the textbook,
Yeah.
from the real world.
Yeah.
And whenever they went into these moments, those are moments I still remember,
Huh.
even now. And whenever they went into those moments, my attention used to be at 100%.
Huh.
All of a sudden, I used to snap back.
Yeah.
I used to soak in every word that this person was sharing because I felt like, okay, this is education.
Yeah.
My geography professor, who was an old guy, he was a 2-time, heart attack patient.
Okay.
So we knew that it was a matter of time. He's going to get another. And he did pass away like that. So this guy was ex-army. And when he was young, he was posted in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot which city. But Japan... Japan, dude. Vietnam is a country.
Okay.
Brut, education.
I just want to take this opportunity to showcase how badly I was affected thanks to my social studies teacher.
So, his peer in the Japanese...
Tokyo. Where is Tokyo?
It was Tokyo or Osaka, one of these two things.
How many cities does Japan have?
A lot. There was a young... his peer from the Japanese army was showing him around.
Mm-hmm.
And because Japan at that time was just booming, electronics, technology, all this kind of stuff. So he took him to a watch store in that city.
Mm-hmm.
And my professor, he stepped in, he looked around, and he asked the shopkeeper, he's like, show me the best watch in the world.
Yeah.
And so that guy just went back. He came back with an HMT watch.
Fuck.
In Japan.
Fuck. Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. Literally, he told us this, and you should have seen the pride in his face when he was telling us the story. And that rubbed off on us because we could not believe what we were hearing.
Yeah.
I'm from Hyderabad.
Right.
I see those HMT closed, shut down factories.
I know. Allwin. I've just recently researched on them. It's so unfortunate. And just complete.
So when he goes to Japan and that guy, he comes out with an HMT watch. That's where the story ended because my professor said that was one of the most shocking incidents of my life. And imagine after all these years, after he's passed away, after I've grown so old, much older than the school kid, I still remember that story. It has not left me.
Yeah.
And my Sanskrit professor, who was from one of the premier Sanskrit universities in India, he was covering a regular lesson in Sanskrit.
Chami, all that.
The compound grammar and all that. It's like, I'm dozing off, I'm not that interested. But then he goes off into Mahabharata. And then he goes off into why Karna is one of the best creators ever that existed in literature. And he explained...
Characters or creators?
The characters, sorry. The best characters to have ever existed in literature.
Or the complexity.
The best kind of person. Because the complexity and the... how do you call that? Irony or he was a destiny's child.
He was a paradox, right?
Pure destiny's child. Like there were so many factors that were controlling his life.
Yeah.
He didn't have much control over them.
Yeah.
But he at every point of time he tried to keep his honor intact.
Yeah. Integrity
and honor, despite the fact that he knew where the road was going.
Yeah.
And it was not going to a good place.
Yeah.
He still
stuck to it.
And I never heard anyone describe, and I had watched Mahabharata TV serial, all that stuff. So I was familiar with the storyline and all that.
Yeah.
But I never heard anyone describe a character with such beauty and such layered just skill.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I was like, I didn't know there was this much to just one character.
Yeah.
And then I started scratching my head, then what about the other characters?
Yeah. How much more are they packing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another instance where my English professor, who hated my guts because I again zone off, and he used to be very strict with English.
Yeah.
It was very tough to get more than 4 or 5 in his tests.
Because this is out of how much?
Out of like 25.
Oh,
like
sweet
internal
Lord.
tests. and he was a paraplegic. Like he had a a stretcher. He used to
Yeah.
walk on that. He was old again,
Mm.
and he had very, very, very high standards. And I always felt like his standards were unfair
Mm.
because we were just school kids.
Yeah.
But he was holding us always to a very high standard. It kind of ticked me off.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, this guy's my enemy again.
Yeah.
And one day he just suddenly starts going off topic, and he starts telling us, I'll tell you a story, a simple story. And the story is nothing but how, as a boy, he and his friends got together, went under the shade of a big tree, climbed the tree, plucked fruits, came down and ate.
Yeah.
There is no intrigue, there is no tension, no suspense, no drama, but I have not heard a better story
Yeah.
in my life. The way he narrated the story, right?
Yeah.
That's where I was shocked again, because I never knew that such a bland plot line
Yeah.
could be narrated in such a way that he had us at the edge of our seats.
Right.
Every word, every pause, we were waiting to find out what happened.
Yeah.
But there was no murder,
Yeah.
there was no rape, there was nothing. There was just kids going under a tree, plucking fruits and eating.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how he could
How he
do
pulled
it.
it off.
Yeah, how he
Yeah.
could do it. And I felt like these moments, these were education. And then I came out of that place. I came back to Hyderabad, my 11th standard, 12th standard. I looked at the faculty here.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest culture shocks for me. Because I was expecting the opposite. I thought in such an isolated place,
Yeah.
If I'm getting this quality, that every once in a while they go off topic.
Yeah.
It is so great. Outside, it's a much bigger world, and movies like Prema Desham were coming out. I was imagining, my school will be full of girls, and
Yeah.
there'll be romance going on, and there'll be this faculty, and I'll be playing sports, and I'll be doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I'll be
You
doing
went into another time vacuum.
yeah, I'll be doing theater, dramas, and all that stuff. And I was just imagining my potential to be leveraged in so many directions.
Yeah.
And I came out and I saw it was one of the most depressing coming to reality moments for me.
Yeah.
And it was like a switch just turned off.
Turned off. That's exactly what it was for me. By the time I came to college, I almost was 80% decided that, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time I finished my college, I was like, never am I getting back to this system. No need of masters, no need of higher education. All those aspirations or so-called, benchmarks.
Yeah.
They all kind of had no value for me.
Yeah, me too.
And that's an unfortunate scenario to be in, because if you look back, you always want to, see, all these things are a matter of pursuing something that you really long for.
Yeah.
And I will go back to the point where the way I look at education is essentially at the end of the day, when you come out of that building, right, you should, as an individual, be in a position to say like, okay, you know what? This is what I figured out about myself.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to go behind, right?
This is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I don't like.
This is what I'm capable of.
Exactly.
Right? And this is what I'm not capable of.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm interested in. And this is where I feel I'm good at.
Yeah.
Whatever. Essentially, a bird's eye view of where you see yourself going.
Right.
Right? And that never happened with me or with people around me.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I say, okay, there are these toppers, there are these people who perform to the curriculum really well, but they do that because they've already given in to the curriculum.
Yeah.
They've already have set the plan for the 15 years where they're like, okay, I'm going to end up in IIT, or I'm going to do my MBA,
or I'm going to leave the country. Yeah.
Whatever, wherever. Yeah. Like, my goal is that this is where I'll go, and then I'll figure out what job, etc.
Right.
That is not career design according to me. You're kind of playing slave to the system.
A template.
Yeah, it's a template, right? And how is that helping? I don't really know. Yes, they might have like their pockets full of money, their wallets are filled, right? Yes, they might have XYZ, but I don't know. See, this is a philosophical aspect of the whole conversation, but are you really happy with what you're doing? Right? The concept of love what you do,
yeah,
or do what you love, basically, right? There are two options. essentially love what you do is more predominant than doing what we love, right? And that's the major complaint that I have. The system doesn't allow you to even figure out what you love. Forget about doing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't even allow you to figure out what you love. That's the biggest, complaint I have towards the system. And that is where I keep getting pissed off every time I start hearing a story, because now I'm at a situation in my life where sooner or later I have to figure out where my kid will have to go, right? And the fact that I don't have choices
You don't.
is so pissing me off.
You don't have. I don't think you have even one decent, good choice.
No, I don't. At least I don't see it now.
No, there's an
I don't know if
ocean
there
of
is a-
schools who promise holistic education,
Yeah,
three-dimensional education.
right.
Bullshit.
Bull crap, dude. Like I'm seeing my friends' kids going to school, right? And the kind of stuff that they are telling me is almost like they've given up. I mean, you should see their faces, dude. It's so painful for me, and it's so disappointing.
Tell us about that homework assignment.
Yeah, I was just going there. So one of my friend, the kid is already in his kindergarten, upper kindergarten, or whatever. And so this guy, and he's a very close friend of mine. He's like my childhood friend. He knows me. We are almost practically family because we don't know how we became friends. He's that kind of a guy.
Right.
So one day he was like, we were talking and like, how things going? How is your school? So has he made friends? Blah blah blah. What are things like? And he had a expression of disgust almost. Like, dude, no, let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? Like, is everything fine? Whatever. So I went for this. So he went for this parent-teacher meeting that the school organized, and all the parents and the teachers had like an open conversation or whatever. And one of the complaints that he heard from the parents to the faculty was, you guys are not giving the kids enough homework. Yeah, this is the complaint
From the parents.
from the parents. And this guy was sitting there and like, what homework? They are kindergarten kids. What homework are we expecting them to have? Right? So essentially their metric, the parents' way of understanding how much the kid is learning or how well the school is teaching the kid is based on the volume of homework they do.
Yeah, because I want to see where my money is going.
Yeah,
I'm
it's like
paying you
that's
so
the
much
only,
money.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's how they're seeing the physical emphasis. Like, that's the physical form of the learning that they have quantified, right?
Yeah.
And then then whatever, the conversation went on, and the teachers were like, okay, whatever, we'll do this, blah blah blah, we'll make these changes, etc., etc. And you know what was the homework given to that kindergarten kid? To make a chart on Environment Day.
Right.
So this happens. He goes back to the school, and my friend is like, okay, who is this homework for?
Exactly.
Because obviously my kid can't understand how to form a chart that talks about Environment Day.
Does the kid know what a chart is?
Yeah. What is the implication of what is this supposed to help him in?
Yeah.
Right? Because he can't do, and you've made it a competition now because there are marks or whatever. And now I can't let my kid fail, obviously. What I'm doing it on his behalf.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
So technically it's me, the parent, who's doing the homework. So what is that's how things are happening.
It is implied. Right?
It's exactly. It's almost it's kind of like the short font terms and conditions saying that we have given this homework, but it's for you.
Yeah.
It's not for the kid.
Right.
And if you don't do it well, your kid will. It's almost blackmail. It's like ransom.
Yeah.
Like kidnapper is like, if you don't give me that money, your kid will die or whatever.
Your kid will
You'll never see your kid again.
Shamed in class in front of their classmates. They'll be peer pressured.
So many things.
Things.
It's a domino effect after that. All you want is, okay, so what is it that the kid needs? If I look back in my life, I just need to understand, expressing myself. I just need to fulfill my curiosity as a kid, right? All you want to do is you have these thoughts in your head as a kid, like why this, why that, blah, blah, blah. I just need someone to answer it. At that point, I don't know if I even care if that is the right answer or the wrong answer. But just the fact that somebody is accommodating my curiosity, that's what I want. I want that environment. I want an environment where I'm making a choice and failing at it.
Right.
Or at least trying to figure out what is the right choice. So when I all these things is what is important, is what I feel, right? Like, you make the kid make choices, push him into, make him more independent, make that kid more independent, figure out their choices. You can guide them, yes, you can give them direction, saying that, yeah, you know what, this is not a great choice. Like, it's not like, hey, I want to become like a pole dancer. That's, I mean, obviously you kind of will put a stop, you kind of like nudge him into the kid into a better direction.
Yeah.
That is fine. But to negate it completely, and on top of it, put them in an uncomfortable position where they feel I don't even know, how can you give pressure to like a kid who's 10 years old?
Yeah.
What are they getting out of it?
Well, the first main question is, if you're 10 years old, how have you not figured out, or how have you not started working on the cure for cancer yet? You're 10, you're 10 years old.
You're already 14 years late
Yeah.
on working for the cure for cancer, right?
It's ridiculous.
And if by any chance you are a little good in math, how could you not even figure out the definition of infinity?
Yeah.
I mean, straightforward, bro. You come from the land of Ramanujan. You gotta do it.
Right. You want to get into IIT, right?
Yeah, you gotta do that. That's the worrisome part, that kids are not understanding at what level they have to perform.
Yeah. And it's just an ugly, ugly thing, which is how much investment is there from the parents' side, because nowadays we have both parents who are working.
Yeah.
Not much time to devote. So then let me throw money at the problem. The school is taking lakhs and lakhs from me.
Yeah.
So now I want to see the paisa vasool of those lakhs.
Yeah.
If they're just
How
selling
long are they keeping the kid in the school?
Right. And if they're coming back, is there no homework? If there's no homework, where is my money going?
How will I engage him?
Yeah, like, where is my money going and how am I going to engage? It is who is working for who, for
we
whose
left
benefit?
our joint families, we moved away from our parents, depriving our child of their grandparents and etc., so that you can make money, schools.
Yeah.
And you're not even giving them homework. You're not even keeping them for detention. What are you doing then?
And you can't even take the question of, okay, fine, if you say one school is bad like this, go to another school. Because which school are you going to go to?
They're all the same.
They're all the same. All the private schools are the same. And nowadays, there's kind of a mafioso thing that's happening, which is the schools tend to blacklist parents. What system is this now? You're interrogating them like criminals. You're treating the kids like monkeys. You're blacklisting parents like, what is this?
Like terrorists.
Yeah. And in your own social circle, you're also spreading the word saying, if this guy comes, don't allow him into your school.
Yeah.
Because, they're blacklisted.
Yeah.
All this gatekeeping bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's not a small number of parents across the country who are frustrated about this. There's a lot of frustration about this. And there's a lot of anger about this. And it's only once a while it gets a little heated enough that we see it somewhere.
It get some steam.
It gets a small column in the bottom section of the front page of the newspaper. And it says, parents are angry about private schools and their behavioral practices. For example, schools and colleges, the bullshit they pulled during COVID, which is, you're not going to use our facilities, you're going to do study from home, but still you have to pay
the whole fee
for the facilities upkeep and all that. Why?
Yeah. When we're not even spoiling the benches, why do we have to even pay the full fee? Have you seen a breakup of a school fee off late?
I don't want
It's horrible, man.
Yeah.
There's a tuition fee, then there is like a special class fee, then there's extracurricular fee, then there is... the breakup is almost like a tax invoice that you get, like when you do your audits, where you get, how your salary breakup comes around. So it just keeps piling up. I remember my school fee receipt. It just used to be like school fee and like whatever amount.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even know if there was tax. I don't know. Too young to
For me, it was just boarding fee. Because
you were a
boarding
hostel.
School.
Yeah.
The schooling was free.
That still makes sense, right?
That quality of education that I just shared the examples earlier, all of it was free.
So but that makes sense because those guys are coming on a free
voluntary basis.
Yeah, voluntary basis. So fair enough. There no tuition fee. It's only, but that's even that is a great deal, because if they are transparently saying that, hey, we are only charging for your kid to stay here, rest of the things that he gets is all free, that's still a lot, and that's a better deal,
and that includes the rest of it. Basically includes access to almost every, forget the library was the best library, like 4-story building, full of encyclopedias, National Geographics, all kinds of things.
Our library was 3 shelves.
Yeah, and we had access to,
with our own textbooks, by the way,
pretty much any sport you could imagine.
Yeah.
We had multiple TT tables.
Yeah.
We had a tennis court.
Yeah.
We had cricket kits.
Yeah. I mean, come on. What are you trying to do? Are you even teaching anything to the kids?
And
bro?
Games was mandatory. Every day morning, early morning, you had to wake up, you had to jog around the track, which is a big ground, and then 1 hour of games. And then evening, 1 hour of games.
Yeah.
So we played a lot.
Yeah.
How much education does that give a child?
Nothing. It doesn't even get you ready for one single interview. What will you speak in an interview?
Right. But we know how much sport builds character. And there's so much you learn just by the cycle of victory and defeat. How do you process victory?
Let's not even go there.
Yeah, it's because a huge digression.
I mean, sports education goes beyond the sport in itself or the game you play.
Yeah.
Any sport education, it's beyond the obvious things like skill. It's beyond the obvious things like fun and
right.
All that.
But let's not go there. Like
so, it's a huge bubble in itself.
Back to the point where I was saying, we sometimes tend to think, what can the parents do? And there were these examples where I saw parents got really pissed off with a few private schools.
Yeah.
It came in the paper. They tried to knock the government's door. And because they were private, the government didn't really...
It's not our concern.
Like,
it's out of syllabus for us.
Yeah.
Don't you get it?
There's a new phone.
There's a private written in front of...
Yeah.
Or written at the back of the name of the school.
We are public.
Yeah, we are public. We are GOTT. We are government.
But what can they do, bro? Because the only people with stake in the matter, the only people with real investment or stakes in the matter are the parents.
It's the future of their kids. I don't know if parents realize this. Which is the first major question.
If they are complaining about less homework for a kindergarten kid.
Yeah. I think they're not really caring about it. But okay, let's try to figure out. We're not trying to give solution here necessarily, Bogus. But let's just ponder about it.
Yeah.
Right? What can be done? What should be done? The first thing I think that has to be done from my end, from my standpoint, is there has to be a very vocal, noise that has to be made by the parents about what is their need of education for their child.
Okay.
Right? Like I said, let me quote the example. My friend clearly said, hey, we just want the kid to be a person of her own, right?
Yeah.
So for that, we can't do it at home. For her to make her own ideologies, make her own personality, she obviously need to be in a social environment.
And that was still strangers. A hi-fi answer that your friend gave.
That's a very complicated
Because basically the right answer is, bitch, I just want my kid to know ABC, 1, 2, 3, 4, addition, multiplication.
Yeah.
What are you complicating
if she by chance goes to US, she can speak in English.
Right.
Right? But yeah, so essentially that is the first step. I think we should have a unanimous consensus of what is our expectation of education. Right? The only problem that I see is, where do we put this consensus, right?
Right.
Where do we record this consensus?
Right.
I can think of a bunch of surveys. I can think of probably a public platform or a website where everybody can go and put in their grievances about education system. So you're kind of working as a feedback box or whatever, so that then you use the AI and ML.
Oh my God.
To analyze what is the consensus one-liner of everybody's problem, right? And kind of decode or derive to a definition of, this is what the Indian parents mean by education, right? But it's far-fetched. But that's the first thing I think.
There is a catch-22, bro.
Yeah.
Because of the amazing standard of our education system,
Yeah.
no one knows AI or ML.
Yeah.
first place.
We'll have to outsource it to
We'll
some
have to,
company
yeah,
in
we'll have
UK
to
or
outsource
US
it,
of A.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think that is the first thing, right? To basically become like a feedback box. That's to create a feedback box
Right.
and kind of get a understanding of what Indian parents are expecting out of the education. And when I say education, I'm talking about the common education. I'm not talking about specialized pieces like engineering or medicine.
Right, just
and all.
the school
It's
level.
just the schooling.
Let's
right?
start with
it's
the
still
school level.
12th
Yeah.
or whatever, 10th.
Yeah.
Right? So till 10th, what is their expectation? Right? Get that information. Get like a common consensus. Once we do that, I don't know what else to do.
Right.
I don't know how do I apply that knowledge to make a paradigm shift in the school of thought of how education should be taken forward,
But
or what are the changes that have to be made.
But sometimes with these things, you just have to get the ball rolling. Like you don't really need to have the complete picture as well.
Yeah.
Because getting these people together itself is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah. ThyGap, subscribe.
And
It's
share,
not easy.
and share.
But just getting that aspect of it working itself is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
So
We are 1 billion people at the end of the day.
yeah, chances are high that, something will get the ball rolling from there. But I feel like the main goal should be realized first mentally, which is what are we targeting? And I'm a huge believer in strategy and tactics, like tactical strategy, which is
So you're playing it like a chess game.
like a chess game, like a war game, military tactics or whatever, however you want to see it. But basically, it's not just blind. Let's all just.
So you're adopting game theory in solving this problem of how education should be reformed for the betterment of our society.
No, because game theory is completely different.
Okay. So once again,
education
let me expose my illiteracy.
And it's good because it serves the purpose of this episode. But the main thing is what is the end goal, and not the end of all,
Yeah.
but end of the first subtask.
Yeah.
And for that, for me, is personally this whole power dynamic that is being created right now with these private schools and how they're trying to
encroach,
do these handshakes behind the scenes between each other and try to set up this system and try to become like gatekeepers where parents don't have democratic options like, oh, if I hate this school, I'll go to that school. If I hate this school, I'll go to that school. I'm willing to move in the city for a good school for my kid.
Yeah.
None of those options are there. None of those options are on the table because there is collusion at some level. There is coordination happening at some level. So there is a power dynamic being established, and it's already established by now.
Yeah.
That we have to tackle first. With this unification or collation that you spoke of, that should be the first target.
Yeah, obviously. But the point is, the bigger question is, who is going to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the parents can say we get this.
They can only participate.
Yeah, they participate. They say like, hey, this is my 2 cents about what I expect about education. And you're like, great, thank you for your participation.
Yeah.
And then you've, over a period of time, say you've garnered that a substantial, data that, okay, boss, this is what let's agree that we all agree on this, that this is what we are expecting from education system or schooling system in this scenario. Then what do we do? Then you're saying there's a gap between what you have said to what my step is.
Right.
You're saying that, okay, we have to dismantle this synergized approach of private schools.
Yeah.
Right? Who will do that? So basically this data has to be given to someone who can make it actionable data.
Exactly. So basically we are
talking about government now.
No? Oh my God, no.
Okay.
The parents are willing participants. So you have an army, but it's a rogue army. There is no coordination. You have an enemy, which is the target, which is the private school system, the homogenized private school system. You need generals to basically give that coordination.
Right.
So you need a central body which facilitates the movement.
Got it.
Together.
So
and that for me, it has to be something like a not-for-profit organization. And this is a topic that we have not even begun to scratch the surface of. There's a lot more that we have to say in
Yeah.
terms of.
But we are not, because we are politically correct.
No, I mean, in terms of strategy or tactics, there's a lot more that we can talk about.
Yeah.
If this is a topic that makes your blood boil
Boil
as
too.
well,
Yeah.
then get in touch with us. Reach out, mindthygap@gmail.com. Let us know if you're interested. If you want us to do a part 2 on this, or a part 3, part 4, however long it
Part
takes.
23
Yeah,
is,
the sweet spot.
is what we have mapped up till for this particular topic. There are 23 parts of this particular topic alone. But if you can share, at mindthygap@gmail.com, of what is one specific thing that bothers you about your schooling, and what is that one thing that you would want to change, so that our offsprings, or the next generation, which is already going to ruts, by the way, can have a more stable, more concrete school education
Yeah, and
in a true holistic manner. What
Yeah.
would that change be?
and do you
Thanks.
see any other ways of changing it? Any other tactics or any other strategies?
Yeah.
Let us know. Hit us up on our socials. Looking forward to that. But until then, that's a wrap from us.
Yes.
And before we go, as we always say,
ThyGap. Subscribe
and share.
and share.